Hi everybody, Rad Mom here. Welcome back to the garden on this lovely summer afternoon. We are going to be responding to some non-binary TikToks. No, do not worry, I have not caught the bug. I sought these out on a YouTube channel that uploads like trans TikToks and stuff. So, come with me on this little sojourn into new territory and let's go see what's going on over there.
I'm like if a guy was a girl was a guy who was actually non-binary. But at the same time, I am a daughter and I am an older sister, but I'm also my father's disgraced son who he doesn't want to acknowledge. At the same time, I'm a really masculine girl, but a really girly boy.
That just sounds a lot like being a tomboy, right?
But also, I'm just autistic.
Ding, 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 ding. That's probably it, right?
And I kind of exist beyond gender. And yet at the same time, I am kind of every single gender rolled into one.
So like a human being?
I am a star, but I'm also an itty bitty snail on the ground that you could easily crush.
Am I alone in this? Is it just me and lunar sphere? It sounds like the human condition.
But if you know me, you know I think snails are cute, but I'm not cute. Only in a way where I'm kind of like an itty bitty kitty cat that's super adorable, and yet at the same time also just kind of like I'm a wounded animal howling on the ground, screaming for help, but you can't really help the wounded animal anymore. There's only one thing you can really do to it at this point.
That's pretty decent slam poetry, and she admits that it's all a cry for help.
You know what I mean? You're welcome.
I have a very serious question for those of you who keep missing my gender. When have you ever met a he, him who looks like this? Huh? She, her, yes. They, them, sure. He, him, who? And if you do know a he who hims like this, power to him. But the he, hims I know, never he, the way I, she.
Once again, this looks like a slam poetry performance. Is this just how TikTok works and I didn't know it? It's fun.
When I present you with she, they so kindly, could you not he, him all over my sleigh? Thank you.
You guys, I'm trying so hard.
I love when I accidentally start queer discourse.
I feel like he does not love that he started discourse. I feel like he's kind of annoyed that anyone bothered to correct him, but feels the need to maintain his facade of being a non-judgmental person. At least for himself.
Yesterday I posted a video where I talked about how frustrating it is when people misgender me as someone who presents femme the majority of the time. A lot of you pointed out how not everyone who presents femme uses she, her, or in my case, she, they pronouns, and some people who use he, him pronouns present femme regularly too. Which is a great point, and it brings us to this idea of gender identity versus gender presentation.
There's a whole lot going on here, but I have grammatical questions. She, her. She went to her job interview. Versus she, they. She went to their job interview? Does anyone actually talk like this? I feel like these two things are just not grammatically consistent, even if you were to use them both. The format of presentation of this idea is confusing and lazy?
These two camps are often but not always correlated, which is why it's dangerous to make assumptions. For example, I was assigned male at birth, and most people who are assigned male at birth go on to identify as boys and men, but I realized I could not be further from that. I identify as a trans feminine person.
Where is sex in all of this?
And therefore my gender presentation is femme. Which is why I was so frustrated in that video, because people will see that I have a couple of features typical of someone who is assigned male at birth.
Like a Y chromosome?
And then assume that they should use he, him pronouns for me. Even if it's a subconscious assumption, the action can still be quite painful. Now, in spite of a couple of characteristically male features, my gender presentation is almost always femme in the way I dress, in the way I speak, in the length of my hair, etc.
You guys, I'm trying so hard!
Which matches with my gender identity of a trans feminine person, hence the correlation I was talking about earlier. But as many of you pointed out, not everyone's gender identity and gender presentation correlates like that. Some people's only correlates a little bit, or some people's only correlates on certain days, or sometimes, or some people's only correlate never.
This is the confusion that you get when you willfully ignore the material reality right in front of you.
All of this is to say that making assumptions about someone else's gender identity can be really harmful and hurtful to that person. So how the fuck are you supposed to know what to call people if you don't know their pronouns?
There's some frustration bubbling through there, huh?
For a long time, a lot of folks, myself included, would say you should assume they pronouns if you're unsure. And I still understand a lot of the logic behind this. However, you might meet a woman, for example, who has a lot of characteristically male features like myself. And if you assume they pronouns for her, it might be really hurtful because she's a woman. She doesn't want to be seen as non-binary. So if you're really unsure, use that person's name, which is probably going to be the most affirming thing for them to hear anyway, until you get a chance to ask them, or better yet, ask a friend of theirs what pronouns they use.
You're literally recommending people elicit gossip about others rather than give somebody the opportunity to introduce themselves.
Because if you take the burden off of that individual to either have to explain to you their gender identity, or worse, have to correct you after you make the wrong assumption, and instead do the work on your own to figure out what best validates them.
Really? This is kindness?
It's going to make them so happy.
Them pronouns are gender neutral, and if you're not sure what someone's pronouns are, it's a safe way to go, but
Ooh, this guy I think is the most insufferable.
if you're calling just the trans people in the room they, them, instead of learning their pronouns because you think you're being a good ally and we won't notice, we noticed, and you're not. It's like we taught y'all how to use gender neutral pronouns, and now you're like, look, I'm doing the thing. If you're exclusively calling trans people that don't use they, them, and we notice when you do that, you're signaling that you don't actually want to learn to respect or see our identities in their entirety.
Why exactly should anybody be expected to respect or see your identity in its entirety? Can anyone say that about themselves? This makes me angry because, like, this entitled kid's got his entire identity on display right there. And we're expected to recognize what?
Because just degendering all trans people is not respecting our genders. I hate to be the one to break the news for you, but if you know someone's pronouns aren't they, them, and you're continuing to call them they, them, now you are misgendering them. Now you are.
But he gives me a great opportunity to say, go and build yourself an identity. It's time-consuming and difficult, but you won't be so worried about whether anyone respects or recognizes it. Ugh. After that, I need a breath of fresh air. Don't you?
The more men that are irrationally angry at you for existing, the prettier you are.
I'm actually not sure why this was included with a bunch of non-binary joy stuff, but I kind of love it.
Why the fuck she got all that shit on? Why the fuck she do her hair like that? Why the fuck she did her eyebrows green? Thank you!
And now we're gonna get into sort of the belly of the beast. Again, I'm not really sure why this qualifies as non-binary joy, but it's not terrible advice.
I was born a girl. I transitioned into a man. I put on about 200 pounds of muscle mass, and then I went to work at a steel mill. I essentially was Jane Goodall of the steel mill. Like, I was observing the body language, I was observing the interactions.
I had thought that in my travels through the gender jungle, I had peeked within the depths of the male psyche, but this is truly some next level stuff.
Now, for certain, I can tell you that men don't know what the fuck they're doing. No more than anyone else.
Anyone else? Who else is there?
Men are just a lot better at being performative.
They're more experienced at the performance of authority.
You need to practice being the observer and not the observed. The minute you shift that perspective, you can calm the down, okay? Here's how you carry yourself around a group of men that feel intimidating and uncomfortable and unsafe to you. 1, go slow, like the laziest lion in the den. I don't care what you're doing, how you're doing it, go slow. Walking fast, fast hand movements, they just read nervous. No one knows you're fucking up. It's all about the presentation and the perception of who you are and what you're doing.
But it's interesting to me because it describes how feminine body language actually communicates weakness on like an animal level.
Don't laugh at their shitty jokes. If you're with a dude and he's making a joke and you don't think it's funny, don't laugh. Just sit there. This goes into my next point. You have to become very comfortable with silence, because silence is very powerful too. The art of not filling space also emanates confidence. You don't have to fill the space. Don't be like, yeah, ha ha ha, ooh, ha ha, hee hee. Don't be doing all that, okay? Don't be jumping to fill the space. Don't be jumping to laugh at them. Just look at them. Watch them squirm. Men of this stature are incredibly insecure. You literally have to sit in your own power and your own confidence and look at them and just be like, you're a dumb motherfucker. Truly, if you're ever in a scenario with a bunch of dudes and they're making you uncomfortable, watch how they interact with each other. Watch who's doing what. Watch who's kissing ass. Watch who's demanding the ass kissing. Watch how it all works and understand the separation between you and them. Both of those things will comfort you.
Not terrible advice.
The Church of England, Catholicism's cool cousin who lives overseas, announced that they are maybe looking into the idea that maybe they could talk about God in gender-neutral pronouns. The reaction was mixed.
Now this one's a little weird. I didn't choose these. Like I say, I stole this from a channel that uploads trans TikToks. But I think it's definitely interesting too.
Like, let me get this straight. There are Christians out there who are outraged, furious at the very idea that God, an invisible entity without genitals or any other body parts, might not have a gender. They can't wrap their heads around it.
But it does highlight how this stuff has pretty much touched every aspect of people's lives.
Immaculate teen pregnancy? Sure. A talking bush? Why not? A zombie turning water into wine? I'll have a vodka soda while you're at it.
Yeah, you see, I think
there is zero chance you have a valid opinion on this.
Somebody sure is loving being the center of attention all of a sudden, huh?
Speaking as someone who recently came out as non-binary, God is going through the typical experience. I gotta say, it took until I was 32.
And speaking as a woman, I'm so happy for this fella to finally get the typical white male experience of projecting your perspective onto God.
To be able to vocalise how I felt because of this type of rhetoric. There's this whole bunch of people out there dying to prove that my experience, my community's experience, is incorrect purely on the fact that they don't care to try and understand.
Sir, I understand. I disagree.
I mean, I don't understand whole parts of straight white male culture. I don't understand cargo pants, but I'm not on the news denying they exist.
Men do have that bad habit though, don't they? Of just kind of dismissing what they don't understand as if they are somehow entitled to understand everything. Which is not a great look.
Right, so what can we do?
Nothing. Don't do anything. You don't really get a say in how someone identifies themselves.
And you don't really get a say in how other people identify you either.
You know, least of all God. Between the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, God has always been a they.
Well, that's even a cheap shot. That's the plural form of they. So that is my little journey through non-binary TikToks. You know, let me know if you guys enjoyed this. Maybe we'll do some more sometime. Thank you for joining me on this lovely summer afternoon while I sit here and basically poke fun at some of this stuff. I have been Rad Mom out here in the garden on a beautiful, beautiful summer afternoon. Come back at the top of the hour for the live stream and discussion where we always keep it lively and we can poke fun at this stuff some more. And I will see you guys here next week with a brand new video. Thanks a lot. Okay, bye.